Alrighty. We got a few people to wait on, but my name is Shannon Haddock, and I work in the fiction department, and I plan programs. And this one I was especially excited about because I got to meet Nicole. Nicole Cleveland is our speaker, and she's an aquarist at the McWane Science Center, and graduated from UAB, with a degree in biology and a focus on marine science. And as all good things, she started volunteer at McWane Center, and it turned into a job. So I hope that you learn something about this and get excited about the McWane Center. And there's a lot there for kids, but there's a lot for adults also.
Yes.
At the center. Now I'll give it over to you.
All right.
Okay.
Well, welcome. Has everyone been to McWane? Yeah. Have you been to the lower level where the aquarium is? Good. Okay. So that's where I work. I take care of all of the animals down there. So mostly behind the scenes things, which I'm going to tell y'all a little more about today. Maybe.
Is it working? It's the side one. No, that one. Okay, point it at the computer.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That would be.
All right, give it to me. We're going to make this technology work.
Is it turned on?
It should be.
It worked back there.
It's,
Yeah, let me go jiggle. All right. If not, I will sit back here and do it at your command.
Okay.
that's what Rush Wanaway used to do. He'd just say build.
Okay, try this.
I was playing with the batteries.
Okay,
Maybe that was
Sorry.
my fault.
now try
Oh,
it. Yay.
was that you or me though?
I don't know if it was me or you.
Ooh. Okay. Well, like Shannon said, I went to UAB. I got a degree in biology with a concentration in marine science. So for those marine science classes, I took classes at Dauphin Island Sea Lab. So lots of Alabama schools go down there to take their classes. They also offer elementary and like high school camps. So if that's something you're interested in, love Dauphin Island. So I got to do things like shark tagging and going out on the boat and collecting. I worked with a group that was doing diamondback terrapin research. So we would collect the diamondback terrapins that came up to nest, and then they take them to UAB to study egg development and temperature. And then I started volunteering at McWane, and it kind of just turned into a job.
There we go.
Here we are. So if you don't know, McWane is in a building that used to be Loveman's department store, and I recently found out it was built in 1890, and then there was a fire, and they built on, and they added the clock that is semi-famous, and then they closed in 1980, and then McWane formed in the early 90s. They are a collaboration of Red Mountain Museum and Discovery Place. So a children's museum and then fossils. And so they brought that together and they bought Loveman's and moved in there. So with that, we're on the bottom floor. Our ocean journey section, all the salt water, is 9 exhibits. And then we have a touch tank. And then we have 3 freshwater exhibits. So we are on the bottom floor, which I imagine was a little bit of a design challenge for the team when they were putting together World of Water. So what equipment they needed and how to get that into a basement of a building. And then it continues as we plan for the future, like what kinds of exhibits will fit in our space, and how we can bring that equipment in, bring new exciting things for our visitors. So thinking along those lines, what makes you think of the ocean or the lake that a building in Birmingham wouldn't have?
Loons.
What was
Loons.
loons? Good. Other animals? What have you been to the beach? Yeah,
Oh, surely.
yeah. What's a big thing that like?
That's not here.
Yeah,
Okay. Pink river dolphin.
pink river dolphin. Definitely don't have those. We still don't have those, unfortunately. So that's kind of a space limitation. We don't have enough space for dolphins, so we can't have those. What do the dolphins live in?
Yeah.
Okay, so water, right? And in the 90s, McWane didn't have water, at least not for animals. So we need to make water. We have a lot of saltwater animals, so we filter our city water through a water softener. It also goes through an RO, reverse osmosis filter. So that makes it super clean, so we know it's in the water. And then we add salt for our saltwater animals. For our freshwater animals, they get the fresh water. So we're trying to mimic habitats that would be like, if this animal lived in the ocean, we want to make our water like that. If they lived in the lake, we want to make it similar to that. We try for a little cleaner than some of our lake and swamp areas. But so water is important to all of our fish friends. The nitrogen cycle is also really important to our fish friends. So we want to kind of mimic, like, if we wanted a certain animal from this area of the ocean, what would their salinity be? What kind of temperature would they need? So if it's somewhere really warm, we want to make it warm for them. Or if it's cold, we want to do that. So we test for all of these things to make sure we're doing that every week and kind of keeping up with what they would need in their wild area and making sure we do that in our
salt content, right?
Yes, salinity is how salty the water is. So some places in the ocean are saltier than others, and some animals can handle more salty water or they need less salty water. So yes.
How does the nitrogen cycle fit into the fish?
Yeah, so ammonia is really toxic to fish. They also release ammonia. So that's the most important one. We want to make sure ammonia is really low or non-existent.
So it's they urinate
Mhm.
in the water.
Yeah,
Release
and since we have our water just goes through a filter and goes back into the system, it just stays there, so it can build up pretty fast depending on how big the system is. So we want to be on top of that when it shows up. So we do that by water changes. And so every layer of the nitrogen cycle we can kind of control with plants sometimes, but we do a lot of cleaning. So if you're there and you might see us vacuuming with these clear containers, it sucks the sand in there and kind of filters it up and gets all the bad water out. And so we do those water changes every week to make sure the water is nice and healthy for our fish. The ocean or the lake or somewhere might also have sand. And so we didn't have sand back in the 90s at McWane. So we bring in lots of sand. A lot of our exhibits have crushed coral in them to make the bottom look like the bottom of the ocean. That helps with some of the filtration. We also have lots of sand filters, which is this bottom picture, a lot like a swimming pool would have. It's full of sand and the water filters through there. And the sand will trap all of the bad things we don't want in the water. And then we can clean those out. We also have these fluidized bed machines, same purpose. They hold sand that has all the good bacteria in there. So if you think about like your stomach or your intestines, they have all your good bacteria. They help you break down food. The sand holds those good bacteria for the aquarium and helps break down that nitrogen cycle into better versions. So less toxic for the animals. Yeah.
You have to figure out like how is the right amount of fish and the right balance of sizes and things like that.
Yes. So
for the size of whatever.
Yeah, there's kind of a level. If you put too many fish, you won't be able to keep up with that nitrogen cycle, the ammonia in there. New systems also. So if you were like, I want an aquarium at my house, you shouldn't start out with 20 fish in your aquarium. You want to start out kind of slow and build those bacteria up so they can keep up with the amount of fish in there and the amount of food that you're putting in there.
That makes sense.
So yeah, that's something we think about when designing what kind of animals we want. Do they live well with each other? What they need to eat, and can we provide that? What conditions they need in the aquarium. So what kind of equipment are we going to need to get to mimic that? Yeah, good questions.
What's the most dangerous animal you have? Like,
That's a good question. We have a snapping turtle, so she's pretty dangerous. She's kind of sneaky, so she'll sneak up on you. We have a green moray eel, so he has pretty sharp teeth, and he's about as tall, like long as me. So that's just kind of scary, and like it's a very big animal.
Yeah.
And then we have some dwarf lionfish. So we have a few fish that have spines that could hurt you. So we just need to make sure that we know where they all are at all times. Yeah, do you have a question? Y'all can anytime. No? Okay. So sand is important in the ocean. It's also important to us. Bodies of water also have waves or currents, so water movement. And all of our systems have pumps to move the water around in there to make it go through their filters. So we try to bring the waves and the currents in. So we have pumps over here. We call them power heads. It just blows the water around. So if something needs a little more current, we can blow the water so they have to swim against it. And then protein skimmers over there. They're usually really bubbly on the inside. And that acts as like waves that hit the beach, how it's really foamy sometimes. That's what that's doing. So it catches particles in the water and it'll bring it to the top where we can clean it out.
and create oxygen.
Yes, and it brings oxygen into the water. Because fish breathe in the water, so that is very important. So you might be saying, Nicole, you're an Aquarist, but what is an Aquarist? So by definition, it's a person who maintains an aquarium. I know that doesn't really explain a lot. So what do I actually do? We prepare food. So we get a lot of our food frozen. So we chop it up depending on what size animal we have. So we have sharks in the touch tank that are about 3 feet, so they can eat like chunks of food. Maybe we eat like pieces of chicken. A lot of our fish have really small mouths, so we have to make like applesauce consistency food for them. Our jellyfish eat brine shrimp. So if you've heard of brine shrimp or sea monkeys, we harvest those, so we have live food for them. So that's part of we want a pufferfish. Well, we need to know what the pufferfish eats so we can kind of provide something similar here. So we get food in and we have to prepare that every week for our animals. And along with that, we get to feed the animals. That's probably the most fun part, getting to know all their personalities. So we have river turtles, Mo's our green moray eel down there at the bottom, horseshoe crab. We have our lionfish, baby sharks over here. We have a lobster, and I have some of his molts. So I tried to get a few from everywhere, but we have Caribbean fish, Gulf of Mexico, Indo-Pacific, Pacific Northwest, all that kind of stuff. You're fine.
What's the most exotic fish that you have?
Ooh, that's a good question. What do you think?
I think probably the lionfish, even though they're invasive and you can see them in a lot of places now. I think that they're the most exotic because they're like really brightly colored and they kind of look crazy.
And they're delicious.
Are they?
Lion.
That's what I've heard. I've never had lionfish.
Ooh.
We have dwarf
Maybe I'll
lionfish, so they're a little smaller.
Yeah.
What is the most oldest fish you have in the aquarium?
Ooh, probably some of the turtles. But fish-wise, Yeah, we have a pretty old catfish. He's older than I've been there, so maybe he's older than 7.
Do y'all personalize and name them? And
Yes,
like
so we have a lot of named animals. So Mo.
Sorry, I think I.
No, you're fine. I'm trying to think. We named the lobster Bruno from Encanto. He hides a lot. We recently named the lionfish Simba and Mufasa. Jack is the angelfish in the middle there. Yeah, some of the turtles have names, ones that we can tell apart. Pufferfish, we have Ollie and JP. The eels have names, so Mo, and then we have Henry, the zebra eel. So yeah, ones that we can like definitely tell this animal apart, they get named. Yeah.
What does JP stand for?
Jigglypuff.
That's great.
The puffer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So he's in our Caribbean exhibit. If you visit, he's usually swimming around at the top. Well, yeah, so we get to feed everything. Yeah.
Is there a staff veterinarian or someone y'all call on when there's not possibly problems with the animals?
Unfortunately, not on staff, but we do have some contacts like in other aquariums, so we can ask other aquariums if they've experienced that or what they would do in that situation. So yeah, we're hoping in the future that we can, but
Yeah.
not right now.
What is the youngest fish you have?
The youngest fish, we had a shark hatch this past weekend, so we have some baby sharks. We also have some baby urchins, but they're probably a month or 2 old. I don't have a picture of them. But yeah, shark this past week. So, yeah. Yes, all the animal personalities are fun. Kind of learn where they're living or hiding, getting them to come out to eat. We make the salt water. So the filtered water we add salt to, and then it's held in really big spaces so that we can send it around the floor when we need to add water. We clean exhibits. So we scuba dive in our Gulf of Mexico exhibit. It's our largest exhibit. So we get in there about once a month. We were in there this past Wednesday. We scrub all the rocks to get the algae off. That other object is the vacuum. So if you ever come by and see that in the water, we're cleaning that exhibit. It works a lot like the vacuum at your house to clean the carpet. It'll pull some of the sand up, and then all the light things in the water that we don't want will get sucked away down the drain.
You mean you get in the tank with the moray eel?
What? So does this lady. Sam helps me a lot to clean scuba dive. So we do have to be scuba certified, or working towards that. So that's
Patty or
helpful.
otherwise?
Sorry.
Patty?
Yes, I'm Patty.
Yeah.
I know some people are SSI or SSD. Is that the other one? But yeah, I think mostly Patty around here is the.
Does
The Birmingham.
Does the McWane Center certify you, or do you go to like?
Yes, as of
And,
recently. I took a class at UAB when I was there, so I was certified like right as I was starting. But yes, we are doing that for our new aquarists, so that's nice. But yeah, that's the one we mostly dive in. It's just easier to stay underwater for a couple hours and scrub instead of having to try to hold your breath up in there. Mo, the eel, does not usually bother us. We are aware of where he is. We also have a safety person up top watching to make sure he doesn't sneak up on us or anything. But we have a cave in there for him, and he usually stays in there once we start making all our scrubbing noises. But we love to wave at people, so come by and see us.
You clean on a schedule?
Yes. So we try to do that once a month, and it's usually a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but kind of when we just have people. That's not advertised, so it's kind of a surprise. But the other items, like the other systems, we clean weekly, but also based on who's here there. Touch tank we get in, but usually when we're closed, just so we're not disturbing everyone's touching time that I know they love. So yeah, it's kind of a if you happen upon us today cleaning. Sometimes our social media team will throw it out, but we also have to care for all of our equipment. So since we are creating the space that they live in, we have lots of dirty filters to catch all of the grossness that's in the water. So we do that. They go in the washing machine. And then we have those protein skimmers to make the bubbles, the pumps. So we just have to make sure everything's running well to keep our animals happy and healthy. We also do water chemistry. So we want to know about that nitrogen cycle and if we need to do an extra big water change this week. So for the most part, we take samples of the water and we'll put them in test tubes, and then we use droppers that change color. So we'll do that and see how good or bad the water is and what we need to do to make it better.
Okay, I got a question.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the saltwater tanks have a lot of complicated stuff to keep it running.
Yes.
But is it easier to keep saltwater animals alive or the river freshwater animals alive
Ooh.
and thriving? Because we've tried to do some river fishes in a tank and they just don't like it.
Yeah, I have heard that some river fish are better than others because some need more water flow.
Yeah.
So that would be difficult to figure out how
Especially
much.
at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for a home aquarium, saltwater would be more work overall,
Yeah.
probably more of an investment. So you're going to have to make the saltwater. You usually need protein skimmer, whereas freshwater, you wouldn't need one. If you're going to get into corals and anemones and that kind of stuff, you need specialized lighting. But you could also need that for planted freshwater tanks. So it's kind of depending on how much I'm cool with a goldfish or
Yeah.
I want a pufferfish or a shark. So yeah, it's kind of mostly you have to research what you want and see what all they need. But you would need to do water chemistry either way
Yes.
to make sure it's clean. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we do. We also have been working with a lab since 2020 at UAB, an aquatic animal research lab. And so we partnered with them, and then we were able to host a few grad students this past year. So we've had 3 graduate students. One is writing a thesis, and then the other 2 were non-thesis based. So we're excited about that. With that, we have a population of tilapia. These are Nile tilapia, which are useful to the group at UAB. So we just kind of keep a population. They breed fairly easily for us. These are a popular food fish, so we may all have eaten tilapia. They're popular in aquaculture. They're not native to our area, so that's something that groups in our area are looking into. And they're mouth brooders, so a lot of times, yeah, the moms will hold the eggs in their mouths until they're ready to be tiny fish. So when they hatch out of their eggs, and then they'll release them. So there's lots of small tilapia. Right now in our lake exhibit, we have lots of tiny tilapia from where that happened. Sometimes they get eaten by other fish, but we have some survivors. We also find them a lot of times in our filters. They'll have released them and then they got taken away, but they're okay. We find them and get them out and move them to another space. And then sometimes we just scare them and they'll release so we can find them. Yeah, they spook a lot. Very jumpy fish. they're also very dirty fish, so we have a lot of cleaning to do with tilapia. So that's kind of a side overall project. One of our graduate students was working on breeding pincushion urchins for us. These are useful to like create the whole ecosystem in our aquariums. So they'll eat the algae. They're a good invertebrate to have around. So the adults are down here in the bottom right. And then we have the gametes, and then we'll combine those. So we have like cell division up there in the top left. And then they're juveniles, and they're floating around in the water. So they do that for about a month, and then they metamorph. So they go from floating in the water to sitting on the bottom, and then they look like little tiny urchins. So that one is one under the microscope. And then we have our couple of month-old urchins on these shells. So that's one. And there are quite a few. We have about 50 in a 10-gallon right now. So that's after 2 or 3 months. So we're really proud of her. It's not anything new happening, but it's new to us. And that'll be useful to not need to go and collect urchins. So aquaculturing, raising things in like at your aquarium will be good to keep our population.
How long does it take to go from
Tiny to adult?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I'll
Oh,
let
just
you know. Yeah.
Well, how long is the process for them?
From
Once the
tiny to
fertilizer-
metamorph was 30 to 40 days.
Okay.
And then
You can see it within a short
They're
time.
tiny fuzzballs. Yeah. You can see the juveniles, the larvae. They just like look like little specks floating around in the water. So we take them to the microscope to make sure they're looking on track. So yeah, and then we put them to metamorph just in with some shells. We thought we lost them for a couple of weeks, and then they were tiny fuzzballs. So we were like, ooh, urchins, yay. So this was our first round that has made it to metamorph. We had some things to work out in between. She has also started algae cultures to feed the larvae, so that's going on.
How do they do that?
Difficult because I ended up not doing so well with the algae. She's gotten algae cultures from the lab at UAB and just transferred, and then with some lights.
The
The graduate student.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. I was starting to say that.
Yeah, so UAB has algae cultures, and then she just got samples from them and restarted it in our lab.
Okay.
So growing them again, which we're gonna have to restart soon. The algae kind of fell off. But yeah, so we have a green, a red, and a diatom culture that we're gonna try to keep for the juveniles.
Do y'all work at all with the people raising mussels down in, the lab down there, Randy?
No, but I know someone that graduated from that lab and is working at an oyster company now. And I kind of want to do oysters, but I'm not sure how well they'll do in aquaria. But I think that'd be cool to talk about at McWane.
I didn't know, with your freshwater exhibit.
Yeah.
Do you do any mussels?
No, we don't have any invertebrates in the freshwater right now. We've talked about snails, but we're a little worried that they'll get like into the pipes. So something big enough to not get in everywhere and take over.
Yes.
But yes, we're looking at revamping the freshwater soon, so we might
He's retired now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
advice at least.
It is neat when you could partner with different
Yes.
students that are doing specialized projects.
Yes. So right now they started a graduate student and residence program. So UAB students, they're doing an accelerated master's, bachelor's program, who are interested in marine science can come over to us and get their research hours. So that was that part. And then we had projects that we were interested in starting. So a lot of aquaculture things and just further research into animals we have. So they could choose from those things or come up with their own idea to help us grow at McWane. So urchins, we're proud of. A big thing is the sharks. Everybody loves their sharks. So one of our graduate students was helping us take weight and length measurements to make sure our sharks are growing on track. During 2020, we had about 25 baby sharks hatch. So we have lots of juveniles now. White spotted bamboo sharks are the guys on the left. And then we have a few epaulet sharks, which are the ones on the right. But most of our shark research right now is with the bamboo sharks. So that graduate student was helping us just get like morphometric data and just kind of see how the sharks are growing and how we can like use that in the future to see if they're growing on track with past sharks. I'll say that in a minute. Both of the sharks that we have lay eggs. So our white spotted bamboo shark eggs are on the top. They're a little bit bigger and brown. And then our epaulet sharks lay golden eggs. And they're a little bit smaller. And I have brought some examples, so if you want to come touch one, we can do that. So all of our adults right now are in the touch tank, and they'll lay the eggs in there, and then we'll come and collect them once we see that they're eggs and move them to the back to see if they're growing. They lay them regularly, so they may not always be fertilized or have a baby shark in them. We do have one in a window, so if you come visit, you will be able to see an egg developing and have it backlit. So the one we have right now is developing and has a little shark in there wiggling around. So that's exciting to watch. I'm trying to get video of that so we can time lapse it and put it on social media once it hatches. They are in the egg for about 4 months. So in that time, they'll eat the yolk that's in there and they'll get bigger and bigger until they're all squished in there. And then they will wiggle out after 4 months, and then they're a shark ready to live its life on its own. Their parents don't really parent, so they just lay the eggs and move on. So we're able to take them out and watch all that.
When you have an overabundance of anything, you have places that you send them.
It's a good question. Most of the time when we don't need to keep the shark, like we don't need more sharks, we will not keep the eggs. So that's kind of the safe thing there. They just lay them and lay them. We could also split up the adults and so they wouldn't be fertilized. So yeah, right now we're keeping them, but we do have lots of sharks. So soon we will not need them anymore. So we'll figure out what option to do there. So our student writing the thesis is looking at how temperature changes may affect development in the egg. So if global warming were to raise ocean temperatures this much, so she has a baseline temperature and then 2 warmer temperature systems, and she has the eggs in there. So on the right, we have just the egg that was laid with the yolk. And then there's like a little shark up here. And then it starts to get bigger. At one point, they have gills on the outside that look all fuzzy. I think that one, you can kind of see the red fuzz. They look a lot like axolotls at that stage. And then the gills kind of get enclosed. So this is throughout shark development. You can kind of see they're getting bigger in there. That one has eyes. Until they get all squished and they're kind of folded in half. And that one's ready to hatch. So we pay attention to yolk size throughout that time. And once it's all absorbed, we know they're ready to come out of their egg. So that's her project. She's about done with the collecting side of things. So we'll have her data soon. But yeah, white spotted bamboo sharks, babies. And that was her baby that hatched over the weekend. So we're excited about all the sharks. We love them, little babies. So that's what we've been up to at McWane. I wanted to throw in a little like, okay, well, what if I wanted an aquarium in my house? Or maybe you already have one. So you have options, freshwater versus saltwater. We kind of talked about, I think saltwater takes more equipment than freshwater, but it kind of depends on the freshwater fish. A lot of people go more like exotic freshwater.
Yeah.
So they're a little prettier, not to bash our fish.
You haven't seen the right fish.
Yeah, I haven't seen the right fish. We have a lot of bass and brim and brown, beige fish. And then like if you wanted to do live plants or live corals versus artificial, the live things would take lighting, more specialized care. And then you want to consider how big is this animal going to get? Can I take care of it for its whole lifespan? Is it going to outlive me? We have a lot of turtles in our river exhibit that were people's pets that they decided they could no longer keep, which we love our turtles, but something to think about. And then you want to start slowly. You don't want to just like throw a bunch of fish in there, go on vacation. It may not end well. So you want to stay there, monitor them.
And it can be expensive.
Yes,
So
yes.
starting slowly is wise.
Yes, that too. So yeah, something to think about, like, am I gonna spend all this money and
And also,
keep this up?
a lot of the big box pet stores don't do fish anymore.
Yeah.
It's hard to source,
Mhm.
an aquarium.
And ones that are treated well and are
Right.
gonna do well at your home. They do get stressed pretty easily, so acclimating them to your water is important. Just kind of slowly add the water to make sure they're matching water conditions, and just being very gentle with them so they warm up. But yeah, that's something to think about. We'd love to help you if you want to start an aquarium. But yeah. Do you guys have any more questions? It was fun.
So are you, like I'm a programmer, but I'm not always spending my time doing programming.
Yeah.
Do you do other things around the center or?
Not usually. We're usually on our floor taking care of all the things
So
that
there's
need to be.
Enough
Um,
work for
yes.
to be full-time?
Yes. So we have 3 full-time employees in the aquarium, and we stay pretty busy. If not with cleaning and things, we're researching animals or figuring out like what kind of projects we want to do next.
Or doing presentations like this?
We do things. I like to do things like this. We do a couple of feedings that are open to the public, so we'll come and show you what kind of food. You can watch the sharks eat on Wednesdays at 3, or Gulf of Mexico eat on Wednesday and Friday at 1:30. So we're out there. This is where we're gonna feed them today. We try to feed Mo. Just kind of tell you about that. If we're passing through, answering questions. Occasionally we're working the touch tank, so you might see us out there. But yeah, we're mostly on that bottom floor.
That's awesome. Sounds like
Yeah.
a fun and a job that's fun and educational.
Yes.
It changes and it's
Yes.
enough to keep you
Yes,
having fun. Yeah.
it is a lot of fun. I have a few things if you want to come up and.
You had a question?
Oh,
Check
I was
it
just gonna, like, are you the aquarist or?
No, so it's me and 2 others right now.
Okay.
So there's 3 aquarists that work in that floor
Okay.
full time. Mostly back of house stuff.
Okay.
So when you visit, you'll probably see educators like working the touch tank and telling you about the rules. We're doing the programs like the cart. So yeah, we're mostly in the back doing stuff, but we may be out there too.
Were you ever an educator?
No, I've always been an Aquarius.
Okay.
We have a staff member
Yes,
in the.
she used to be an
She
educator.
used to be an Aquarius and educator at McWane, which gives us a good avenue for asking them to help us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you still volunteer?
I do. I volunteer once a week. I go and do my old job for free because that's how much I love it there.
Yeah.
Was there, oh my word. There used to be a third type of shark on the touch tank.
Yes, we used to have bonnet heads,
Okay.
and we're hoping to bring them back when we're able to do that well.
Yes, we had a membership for years and years
Yes.
and years and always spent tons of time in the touch tank.
Yes.
But COVID hit, we never.
Yep.
Because everybody got old and busy, but yeah.
Yeah, we have the 2 types of sharks right now, and then 2 types of stingrays. But yes, we used to have bonnet heads, looked like small hammerheads.
Okay.
And the plan is to bring them back in the future. So
Okay. So did the animals reproduce more when nobody was there during COVID? Like
Like the
that's-
sharks?
Yeah, like did they have more peace?
not necessarily. We didn't have success with them for several years
Okay.
because we had them like in different areas, and I guess we didn't have the right combination of sharks together. And so we were like,
Need a male and female.
we did, but they weren't laying good eggs, so I don't think we had the right male
Oh.
or the right female. But we put them all in the touch tank, and
Yeah.
we started keeping the eggs just to like, maybe we'll get some good ones this time. And then things got crazy with COVID, and we were in there less, and suddenly they were like all fertilized, and so we were like, all right, I guess we have 20 baby sharks now.
That sounds like a lot.
Somebody
It
got busy.
is.
Okay.
All of our back of house holding areas are baby sharks
Okay.
right now. So soon the touch tank will have lots of lots of sharks.
Right.
So in that way it's good because we can repopulate the touch tank. But yeah, in the meantime, it's like, where can we fit some sharks? So we've created an exhibit in Ocean Journey with juvenile sharks.
Cool.
So there's a middle space for them to be when they're a couple of months to like a year old.
Teenagers.
Yeah, the teenagers move behind the scenes and then they'll reappear in the touch tank in a couple of years.
Are
So
there rays?
yes, we have southern stingrays and then cow nose rays.
Oh.
But they're all boys.
They're all boys on purpose.
Yeah.
So we don't have baby stingrays.
They always just seem to have such interesting personalities.
Yes. They like to splash people. Or we think they like to splash
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, who knows what those really
Yeah.
is, but it was on there.
Our pufferfish spit at us. And we're not, we give it like oh, they're hungry, or like, oh, they want you to, but yeah, they'll come to the top and like spit water up. Our lionfish are learning that too. So
And you have brochures
yeah, so I
and
have some stuff about
volunteer.
McWane, like membership. I have some coloring sheets if you like to color. And then I have some like animal molts and shark eggs and stuff if you want to look at those. But yeah, that's all about me and McWane World of Water right now.